Hi, welcome to Sharing with Susan B, telling stories from the heart. We're looking to inspire, telling stories of struggle, vulnerability, and lessons learned. Hi, I'm Susan Blaine, and welcome. I'm here with Barb Cartwright. I'm really excited to have you as a guest. Barb, thanks for coming. Barbara Cartwright is the CEO of Humane Canada, and humanecanada.ca is the website, so check it out. They do some amazing work. You wanted to be a vet. How appropriate.
Yeah.
Many of our guests wanted to be a vet. I love animal lovers. You grew up in Burlington,
Yep.
Burlington, Ontario. Your first volunteer position was a dog walker.
Out of vets. Yep.
You got interesting though, you got a college diploma in fashion modeling and cosmetic management, sort of a bit of a detour. And you worked coordinating events in the industry for about 3 years while you were in school, and then you changed paths. And then you got your Bachelor of Arts with a major in geography and a minor in drama at McMaster's. And then something happened that sort of changed things for you. You went to the Jane Goodall Conference in Scotland with your husband.
Yeah.
And you and your husband spent 8 months living with orphan chimpanzees at a sanctuary in Africa. After that, and then you came back, but you stayed volunteering there for about 10 years.
Yeah.
You went back and forth. Yeah. And when you came back to Ottawa, you begged the International Fund for Animal Welfare for a job. And then, so you started off as a campaigner, then a campaign manager, then a global team leader.
Yeah.
So you got that job. You went back to school for a master's in education and communication, and now you've been with the CEO of Humane Canada for 8 years.
Yeah.
You know, you're volunteering. Basically, you volunteered in almost every job you've ever had, and then you got hired on. That was a bit of a pattern, wasn't it?
Yeah, which I didn't realize until I looked back at my career. I was like, oh, that's my trick. I volunteer. I just don't like to not have the opportunity. So if they won't pay me, I'll do it for free.
So tell us about what you're really passionate about now.
I think it's the same thing since I was little, but I've gotten better and better at identifying it. And so that's why when I went to see Dr. Goodall speak, she really lays it out clearly. I'm passionate about people, animals, and the environment, and seeing all three of those integrated and interrelated.
So important.
And moving us all forward into a healthy world. And I don't think you can do one without the other.
No.
Particularly now, I think we have to even expand that and think about the earth and how are we going to include the most vulnerable in our world, women, children, animals, and the earth in one solution in order to elevate them all.
Wow.
And that's really my focus.
Share with us what you feel has been your biggest business struggle so far.
Absolutely. Increasing resources in the not-for-profit sector.
Yeah.
So I'm, as you can tell and as you can see through my career history, I'm a career nonprofit person. And I'm so grateful that I have an opportunity to be a nonprofit. It's really where we're doing all the work that all of us, if you ask anybody, what do you care about? They're going to talk to you about, I care about people having health care. I care about women. I care about the environment. I care about animals. It's where all the important work that attaches to our souls is happening.
Yeah.
But we starve it. We don't give it the resources that we say give corporate or government in order to do the work that we all would say is the most important work for our communities.
Because it's a business in that sense. You need money to do the work.
Exactly.
Right?
And it also, the nonprofit sector grew really out of the religious concept that you give freely without expecting anything back and you volunteer all your time. So we're still really coming out of an age where, and I get it all the time, I don't know if you've ever had anyone call you up and say, how much money do you make? And why do you make that kind of money? And you should be donating everything that you do and you should be volunteering.
You should be doing it from the heart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I am doing it from the heart, but I also think that we need to attract our best and brightest into the not-for-profit world. And every dollar that we get into our organization, as well as all humane societies and SPCAs and all charities, really, we scrape and we push and we have to fundraise, and there's such important work to be done, but without the resources we can't do it. So I'm glad to see that we're starting as a culture to move away from this concept that you have to have a poverty mentality to be a nonprofit, because we do need the best and brightest. We need MBA students who are coming out of school and choose to take a nonprofit career and can see a path towards being an executive in the non-for-profit world. And I would say out of all challenges I faced, that continues to be the hardest one.
Something else that you mentioned that I thought was really interesting and we haven't talked about too much is that your leadership struggle, that you wouldn't always be liked.
Yeah. So that's the other thing. It's really interesting as a leadership struggle. You step into a leader role and you don't realize that you're going to say things that people don't like. There are going to be people that don't necessarily gel with your leadership style. And coming to that point where it's okay not to be not liked all the time.
Most leaders are not all liked because, yeah, you've got to do
I didn't realize that.
as an animal lover and a peace and Greenpeace.
Yeah.
What about personal struggle? I know we talked about that a little bit, and we talked about, you know, being a professional and being, and also family life. And
yeah. So as much as I'm committed to my work in my 9 to 5, if you want to call it that, I'm also committed to my family and committed to my community. And so there's always an internal struggle between how do I provide the focus and attention that my children need to grow and thrive. And I want them to be thriving, contributing members of society.
of course.
And I want them to grow up with their self-care and their confidence really high.
Yeah.
And so I believe they need their parents to focus on that so that they can have it. And how hard is it to focus when half my brain is doing my work, because I'm also a workaholic. So how do I match those two things?
Yeah. It's a work in progress, right?
It is.
So let's talk about some of the lessons. You know, being open.
Yeah.
And how powerful that is, right? When we're open, especially with our kids, we try to shelter them from that,
Yes.
right? And then when we let them in, they're smarter than we think.
Yep.
You know,
and they're paying attention to everything.
They are, and we're teaching them when we demonstrate that.
Yeah,
so,
and I want to teach my son and my daughter to live passionately, because it has been a source of great joy in my life. Everything I've chosen to do is because I'm excited and driven by it.
Yeah.
But I don't want them to learn that it can also be very stressful and hard and difficult. So how do you balance even that?
Well, it's showing them that's real, right? That's real. And I know we were talking about, you know, no is no. Learn to check in with yourself, self-care, you know, and learning those things is important. What advice would you give your younger self? All the wisdom that you have now.
So I don't know if it's the advice I would give to my younger self or a younger person I was talking to.
Okay.
Because people will often ask me about how I got here, and I go through that crazy path. And they're like, okay, well, I don't see my way. And often those of us who do live this way end up saying, you know, find your passion.
Yeah.
And go there. And then I find people are like, well, I don't know what my passion is. How do I find that? So I was recently at a presentation, and Colma Minhas, who's from Ottawa here, was talking about the idea of what makes your heart break, and go there. And it breaks my heart the way we treat animals in our society, and it always has. And it breaks my heart when I see vulnerable children and vulnerable women in a vulnerable world. And so that's where my work is. So my advice to people starting out, or even trying to think about how to follow that passion, look at go deep inside, what breaks your heart, what brings you to tears, and go and work there.
Ready for some rapid fire? Some fun questions?
I hope so. Okay.
Let's learn a little bit more about Barb Cartwright. Who's your favorite superhero?
Oh, my mom.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Oh,
you know
lovely.
what? I love my mom. She's an amazing superhero. I don't need to look to Marvel or anybody else. I got
that's
one right with me.
That's awesome. And I'm sure you're that for your kids too. Favorite food indulgence?
Chips and dip with a glass of wine.
Someone you admire?
Jane Goodall.
Yes. Something not too many people know about you.
My favorite animals are cows.
Cows.
Yeah,
Aw.
nobody ever guesses cows. They'll guess
cow-
chimps, dogs, cats, but cows have always, since I was little, been my favorite
I
animal.
love that. Something that always makes you smile.
Something that always makes me smile is my children.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're such a great source of joy. And in my children, I include my dog too, because he also
Well,
makes
he's
me
your
smile.
furry baby. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie, Dead Poet Society.
Book?
Favorite book.
Or a quote?
My favorite quote is definitely, and one that I say all the time to myself, is regardless to whether you know it or not, the universe is unfolding in perfect order.
Oh, that is so true. To find out more about Barb and the great work that she does, of course, you can check out humanecanada.ca. That's a website. She's doing great things. Facebook and LinkedIn, you can follow her as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
And
Susan.
thank
It
you
was
for
really fun.
sharing. Awesome.